All right. Good morning, gentlemen. Bob here, back once again. We're going to break down some Bitcoin. No time wasted. Let's get right down to it. Figured we'd start out with a monthly view I figure we're only a few days away from the end of the month, and Bitcoin's still got some work to do. Again, ignore the number here because this is not updated as frequently as the exchanges themselves are. So just ignore this number for now. As of this very moment, when I looked, 20 seconds ago when I looked, we were about $21,200. I figure that's kind of an important number at the moment, just because, again, we're talking about it. We ideally we need to get over the 50 simple by the end of the month, and we're like right on that cusp here. Obviously I can't see behind this candle right here, but kind of looking at it fairly as closely as you can. You're going to see that, we're right there, right? I don't know, maybe the 50 simple on the monthly is actually closer to 21.5, maybe it's 21.2, but we're right there. So, if it's 21.5, no surprise that we keep coming up against it getting rejected. It's going to act as very strong resistance, but, we're butting up against it several times really in the last few days. So, if we're going to look to see if we can get some seller exhaustion, that's the way we're going to do it, right? Is just to keep pushing up against it. And then so far, Bitcoin is actually, over the last several days, has held 20,880, 890, somewhere in there. So, and it's just kind of been bouncing back and forth between those two ranges, aside from a spike briefly, I want to say Saturday, up to 21.7 or so, which ended up being a bullish fake out. But we'll zoom in a little closer, but wanted to start there and just kind of say, hey, look, we're already right where we need to be, but we've still got some work to do. If we go ahead and click on over to the weekly, we got a lot of work to do. Closed the week below the 200 simple, which frankly, as we know, that was not what we wanted, right? I mean, that wouldn't have been the most ideal scenario. And I don't. When we click over to the other chart, this will look a little different. This was actually, like I said, we'll click over. But yeah, we did not get the close that we needed, right? I mean, we can see here that the 200's right there, somewhere in the neighborhood of closer to 22.5. So we're way off base there. So we got some work to do, right? We got to make sure that by the end of the month we're holding the 50 on the monthly chart, and ideally that'll at least give us some support to continue to make attempts at the 200. I've talked about this before right here. This cross here, at some point after this cross takes place, it will start to draw the price action back up to the 21. Unless you get to a point where you can't get out from below this level, at which point it will just continue to push it down and may push it down even faster and harder. So, we want to recover this level, period. There's no question about it. Want to, need to, call it what you want, but we gotta recover that level. To reiterate, and we've been down this road before already, this is the most oversold the Bitcoin weekly chart has ever been. Ever in history. It's never been this low. So again, some things that seem to be different versus prior cycles. The interesting thing about what I see when I look at this is that, like here's a good example of a time where you had these big pullbacks, and then it kind of comes up like this, and then it almost assuredly has to roll back over. If that happens, I mean, then we can expect that rollover is going to take place and come down into this region. I mean, I think that would be a fairly logical conclusion to reach, that if this thing pops up here and then can't recover it, we're heading down further. So, again, we gotta see what happens. I don't get to make the decisions as to what Bitcoin does. I can just tell you how it could play out. And yeah, I mean, none of this is ideal, right? I mean, if you got you can see the falling wedge here, which covers the weekly or the monthly nicely. But if I wanted to show it on the weekly, I'd have to adjust it a little bit. And if you drew a line through here, we have in fact lost the bottom support, which makes sense because the pattern that we were looking to play out was actually coming off of here. And you can so if we take this line and we break it through, no, not that one, this line. If we take that line and we break it through where it would have been representing fairly more closely the actual falling wedge that we've got identified here. Again, that would and technically it includes these guys here. So I guess that would be the thing, is that maybe if I'm looking at it one way, and they're actually, this one I can't adjust the way I'd like to, but if I could adjust the angle on this line, maybe that actually does kind of keep us within the boundaries that we're looking for, right? Like maybe now this is actually the falling wedge that we're working with here, right? And maybe it's something more along these lines or maybe it's falling channel. Who knows, right? I mean, there are different scenarios, but I think at the end of the day, again, given what it was I was really looking for here, we didn't get it. So, the question now, I guess, just simply becomes what is the appropriate pattern here? What are we really dealing with, and will we recover out of there? We'll find out soon enough. Again, I mean, we're going to zoom in on some shorter term time frames here, and that's going to help us to make this determination. But let's go ahead and get zoomed in on not short time frames, daily here. All right, so we lost 21.2 since this morning. Couple different things here. Probably the biggest thing is that we do still have a stochastic RSI that is in our favor. It's still technically a buy. It's just clearly losing momentum. And then on top of that, you can see here that as the price action has been rising, volume has been drying up. This is typically a bearish sign. Obviously I was talking last week and I thought maybe we might lose it here. Timing's the most difficult part of the market to be able to assess. Now it's fairly safe to say that we've lost this uptrend here, which was the primary uptrend line. And you can see in here, if we represent the price action here, you can see that in fact, yeah, it probably did lose it. And it's possible it could recover into it because we do have this guy right here that we broke out of to an extent, right? The kind of the rising wedge look, broke out of it. And now if we can come down here, put a test in and a positive one, then we can maybe break back up and get something positive to the upside again. But as of right now, I would say that that's borderline questionable, that in fact we probably are going to be retesting some of our lows again. Maybe not way down, but I don't see any reason to believe that we're not going to retest something. Now here's why I wanted to come over to this weekly chart, because as you can see, it's very different than the Brave New Coin Liquidity Index. Let's get rid of all the drawings and just focus on the price action itself. So we did get what we needed, right? Like we got a green candle, which was a positive. We closed out the week in the green. So now we've got a chance to at least, push up once again. Now, when I say we got what we needed, just to clarify, by the way, we got a green candle, but we just, obviously, we still have a lot of work to do to recover to the level we need, right? Now the question becomes, do we, is Bitcoin going to come down here and re-sweep this low? Does it hold this low? Does it hold this low? We're going to find out. Got no choice but to find out, really. But yeah, I mean, that's, we got part of what we needed. The downside has stopped temporarily. Now the question is, how ugly does this week get? Or is it, in fact, so oversold that once it does kind of pop down here and say that this line that is white right here, this RSI, say that it does kind of come down and tap down here. Well, as long as the price stays above where this one was, then we're going to diverge back to the upside. So, it won't necessarily kill us to come down and test something down here, because at the end of the day, that should lead to a strong recovery, at least potentially back to the upside, unless this thing is just going to go stupid oversold, right? I mean, again, it's already the most oversold it's ever been on the weekly chart. So why not go even more deeply oversold, I suppose, right? I mean, that's really the question. And again, going back to the monthly, here we are. We're barely hanging on to neutral territory as far as the bearish bullish scenarios. So excuse me. So yeah, I mean, I again would love to see some positive things happen here for us. Would be nice to hold this at the end of the month and then pop back up here and start climbing back up towards the 21 at least. Maybe we can recover to at least 40K. I mean, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, we got some work to do either way. We're below here. As of right now, this is a green candle. I do fully anticipate that at the least we're going to need to come down and retest this 20,500 number, simply because we've yet to push up higher. Now, it doesn't happen every time, right? So keep that in mind. That like here, actually, this is a good example. Here, when it recovered a little bit, it did only come down and retest the very bottom of the candle, and it never looked back. In this case, you got a point where it never even retested at all. It literally went straight from here to that candle and up. Here we had a situation where it took about, you got 2 weeks where you didn't set a new low, and then here you came in and you took out these two lows, but it still ended up being a green week. So again, kind of keep in mind that there's a couple different ways we can go about this, and I just don't know for sure which one it will be. There are different ways that we could go about this, that it could be positive, but we got to start making progress back up the chart here for sure. But let's get back on the daily chart. And, you can see here, price action-wise, it seems fairly evident that we did, in fact, lose this uptrend at this point. In fact, this was probably a solid, well, technically, when you look at my other chart, you'll see it wasn't necessarily a bearish retest, but when it came in and put in this little higher high, total bearish divergence in it, and it just kind of rolling over now. So, again, now I think we can start to look for more realistically, and again, assuming this doesn't bounce off of here, now we can realistically start to look more so for potential downside targets, unless we continue to hold this level and just don't give it up, right? If this holds up again today, it could pop right up back through there, but I don't know, you can kind of see where it looks like it's starting to roll over. Sometimes you get these rollovers when the market starts to flip bullish. Sometimes you get these rollovers, and then you think it's going to just keep continuing down. It'll bounce off, like, say, this level and just fire off to the upside. So those things happen too, especially when we're bullish. And let's actually get a different chart on here. I think this one will help us out a little bit. And yeah, you can see here on the 4 hour that we're starting to lose. I mean, it's interesting because we are setting higher lows. Each low has been higher, right? So like this set of lows to these set of lows, never came down below here. It held that, so we got that. Here was a higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. This one right here, if it doesn't stop here, I mean, we're gonna go ahead and finally put in a lower low, which will give us a more pure indication that, in fact, we will be starting some sort of downtrend right here. And again, if I put a line around here, you can see that there is a rounding to the top, and that, like I said, the one thing might be that it does pop up out of here, where it wouldn't necessarily be expected, and then just roast off to the upside. But the fact that it now has lost the support of the 21 on the 4 hour chart, not exactly a positive thing. As you can see over here, when it lost it actually rebounded fairly nicely overall. But again, it's not. This is not a positive scenario right here. This is not necessarily what we wanted to see. And you can see from here, based on this Fibonacci chart I've got on here, that really this is our 0 point, right? This 21.5 region is the 0. This was an obvious bullish fake out, came down. We've now put in a bearish retest here. I think it's safe to say that we're going to have to come down and retest something lower. I actually thought we might come down to this 20,640 yesterday. Matt and I were talking, and we kind of KuCoin has a competition of sorts going on right now, where you just say what you think the daily price of Bitcoin will be when it closes, and we ended up going with 20,642 or something like that, and by the time we actually did close yesterday, it ended up being like 21.1, somewhere in there, and then got a nice rebound off of that. But again, it's safe to say right here that now that we've lost to 21 again, it's probably a fair assumption we will go ahead, come back down here, and start to retest some lower lows. Hopefully holding here, hopefully we can come down here, put in this test, and take off. Because so far the 382 fib retracement level has held up, and we haven't even retested the 236 again since we regained it here. So I think that you make the argument that it could come down here and then fire off, right? And that would be what I'm talking about, where you start to see these rounding patterns happen, and they don't quite follow through all the way. And sometimes they'll just go ahead and pop right off where you didn't expect them, and that's typically where you'll see it. Is after you've tested the 382, you come up, you think you're going to round out down, you come down, get this 236, and then just fire off. So feasible, it could happen there. I don't think I'm going to count on that. And again, just because, look, you can see we're just trading within this range here. Really for what, goodness, for the last week plus, we've just been trading right in this range. So bulls, bears, somebody's got to win eventually, and break this range, and it's just tough to say who's going to do it. If we lose this level, then safe to say we will definitely come down to here, and if not, make our way all the way back down to some other levels. We lose this trend line here, we break back into that. That's a fairly certain guarantee we're coming way back down here. So we'll see. Ideally, this area here holds up when Bitcoin comes down and tests it, and we just burst off onto there. But it's not a given by any stretch of the imagination. Let's go ahead and we'll just get the shortest time frames on here now. Kind of wrap this video up. I think it's safe to say that again, the needle in my mind is pointing down, especially now that we've got this scenario, this high, this low, which again was equivalent there, but now we put in that bearish retest right there, and I figure I'm seeing it at least coming down to here, and that still basically gets us a lower low. So we'll see, but let's get some short-term time frames here. Let's get this guy. Now this is messy as all hell, and I get that, but I want to try and make some sense of what we're seeing here. Let's just go ahead and get the big picture going. All right, so here's kind of the interesting thing. So you got this initial uptrend and a rising wedge, broke down out of it, put in a higher high, so made this trend line. Then it lost that, bearish retest there, basically rounded bottom. Now the interesting thing is we got the rounded bottom, but this is not really what a handle would typically look like. Normally when you get the handle out of the rounded bottom, it'll just kind of fire off down and kind of flag out over the resistance that was broken. So like I would have expected we would come down and kind of, none of this price action right here would have taken place. It would have typically kind of, let's say that it would have stayed under this trend line right here, and we'd have just had this action here until it came back down and retest whatever level it needed to, and then boom. But I think this too, and I've kind of looked at this level a few times. So now here, assuming that this pattern is valid, and it looks to be, right? We got a lot of touches on both sides, here, all the way up here. So I think that's a fairly valid pattern. So, it should have fallen out of there, 20,600. Again, that's where I was getting that number from yesterday. But we did get this falling wedge that built from out of that pattern. So Bitcoin comes down here after getting slaughtered at this level yesterday, finally finds support, actually breaks out of the falling wedge, tried to break back into this rise here, and then, it has since lost it again. So, we could say probably got another bullish fake out of sorts, which, as you can see, it's impacting the price for sure right now. Fairly significant amount of volume, so it may very well continue for a bit longer here. But yeah, when we're coming back down, if it breaks below this level, this would be the ideal place for it to find support again. If we can find support at 21,000, that gets us a few things happening here. One, it'll give us a back test of our breakout from this falling wedge looking setup right here, which again, it doesn't look pretty as far as how the price action went through it, but you could see that it's valid, right? We had this line here, and depending on the time frame you're looking, the hourly makes this look a lot better. And then I'm using Heikin-Ashi candles, which make it a little more difficult to see the patterns. And that's to that point. That's part of why I've been making sure that I keep these other charts open with regular candles, is because you do have to use them kind of as a collective whole kind of a situation. It's not, you have to have both used in tandem. But in either case, again, we're looking at this and saying, all right, well, if we can hold, say, this level right here, it does two things that I see. It would give us a back test of that line and the breakout there, so 21,000 and change. And then it would also allow us to retest the original break above this level right here. So even then, 21,139 that or 131, that's going to be a number I'll be looking for as well. One of those two numbers needs to hold up, or all of a sudden, yes, we do come firing off through here. And again, the measured move, if we would have continued down from here, would have put us right at that level. Now, if we consider this measured move from there, it's a little bit higher, but not by much. 20,660 versus 20,600, almost exactly. So we're still same kind of general concept. Those would be the numbers I'd be looking for until or unless this level continues to hold up, which would be great. Obviously, we would appreciate that very much. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Now, what would be interesting is if we look at this, and actually you could almost say that this whole thing here was a rounded bottom, and then this is a solid handle coming out of there. Now let's assume that this thing just cracks right down, finds support here. This thing could V recover right back out of there, because this would be a beautiful Eve, and then that would give us an atom, and that would be a double bottom there. Which we kind of already have. This could be the atom right here. And just to clarify, an Adam and Eve double bottom is where, as opposed to just kind of coming down and touching, like say you put a touch here and then it just kind of rolled over and touched here. This one has a very specific form to it. It comes down, breaks back up. This is a V shape here. That would be the atom. It's more of a phallic symbol, if you will, versus this one right here would be the Eve. It's more of a rounding. And, same concept applies, though. It held the same level. Atom, Eve, double bottom. If we get that, then all of a sudden now we can start talking about a measured move once we break back above 21.5. Then we should be able to put in a move to 22 and change. Now, the other argument I might make is that this could be a very nice rounded bottom right here. So cup, this could be our handle. And again, this could V right on out of here if this thing holds this level. So we're going to definitely be looking to keep a very close eye on this 21,000 level. Bitcoin finds support there. Boom. Go ahead and, probably go ahead and take a look at buying into that and getting that ridiculous pump to the upside that we think could happen potentially. Let me actually go back over here and then reiterate this. It wouldn't quite get us to that 20,600 to give us the bounce off the 236, but again, I'm not offended by that, because the higher level that we bounce off of, the more likely that we can actually get continuation. Right now, you can see the price is compressing as we start to move towards this apex. Now it's just a matter of which direction it's going to go. So, only other thing I wanted to point out while we're here and really just kind of touch base on this. Two different things that I want to show you. Number one, Bitcoin dominance chart. We had this huge rise up out of here. I think it's fairly safe to say at this point now, for sure, that this was a bullish fake out of here. And really, it was just the backbreaker for the market, right? Like, once Bitcoin popped up here and started coming out of here, altcoins just got absolutely destroyed. And it's, obviously that's the thing that probably broke a lot of people on this market. They're like, all right, where's the bottom? Are we ever getting there? This is unreal, Then all of a sudden, I was a little surprised that we actually came down here and did not hold this level, because I really expected what would happen is that when it came back down here, in spite of the fact that this was a bullish fake out, and fairly obviously at this point, but I really thought it would come down here, hold this, and that this would be what would send Bitcoin itself off and up into the next levels again, right? Where this would basically give Bitcoin the strength it needed to go ahead and start putting in a move to the upside, and a much stronger one than we've seen so far. It has not, though, and in fact, it actually broke back into this pattern. So now the question is, does it just continue and then cross all the way through here? If that's the case, well, then we've still got, several more days, if not, maybe weeks of positive price action in front of us. Not necessarily for Bitcoin, but for the altcoins. But I do think that at this point it's fairly realistic that it is pretty oversold now, that we are going to see some sort of rebound, at which point alts are going to go ahead and pull back a little bit until this finds itself either falling again or, whatever the result's going to be. But I did want to point this out, that this is ultimately going to dictate, how things go here. But and I told Matt the other day, I was like, man, everybody, when we were like basically over here, everybody's saying, oh man, we're going to get the lowest Bitcoin dominance of all time. We're gonna push for it, and you can see here that instead of moving down towards the lowest ever, we bounced right off of this support. It's only ever been tested one other time ever in the history of Bitcoin, and obviously got a recovery there, rejection here. So. We got a few different things going on here, and then also let's just jump on over here to the USDT dominance. And when I pointed this out to Matt, a couple weeks ago, as you can see here, this has been going on for a few weeks. I said, hey, I think we're finally going to get some relief here. It looks a lot like this did. We got our relief. Now we got to see if this ends up being a bearish retest of the 21 here. I don't know that it's going to be, honestly. You can see here already that. Just like when we were talking about with other charts, the logic here still holds as well. It didn't come in and set a lower low yet, did it? No. It, in fact, held this low right here from the body of this candle. So, who knows? This thing maybe does pop up over here today or within the next few days and give us a reason to sweat for a few days, which would coincide with the concept that Bitcoin actually does maybe come down, re-sweep the lows. We're going to see. We're going to see what happens. But, I went way long today. We're 28 minutes and change. I will stop now. But I think, again, we still got some mixed signals from the market a little bit here. We'll see how it goes.